folks, welcome to Hanging Out with Mad Mimi, or as we've started calling it, How Mad Mimi, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. I'm so glad you could join us. As always, I'm Mira. Unfortunately, Becca has a stomach bug today, otherwise she would be with us. But everybody send out your healing wishes to Becca so that she can get better soon. But thanks again for joining us this week. And if you guys, we would love to hear your comments and questions. And if we say something you don't understand, or if we say something interesting that you want to talk more about or ask a question, you can send in those questions. So just hit the Q&A button at the top of the screen. There's a little grid box at the top there, and click there, and you'll see the Q&A, and you can submit your questions there. So we want to hear from you. So let us know what you're thinking. Hopefully, Mike, you can see the video now. We saw your question about that. So we're live now. We're going, so you should see video. But let us know if you have any trouble. This week, I'm joined by the wonderful Stephanie Martel.
Hey,
Thank you for joining us, Stephanie.
I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited that you're here, too. This is going to be a really fun discussion. Stephanie is an artist, and she's built her art from hobby into a business. She blogs, and she is on this journey of finding herself, and she helps others do the same. And so we're going to be talking about creating art and about the struggles of the human condition. So there's going to be some big stuff to talk about, so please join in. Stephanie, I'm hoping you can start out by just telling us a little bit about yourself, maybe how your journey started, or anything that you want to share with us to get us going here.
Sure. I'm just really excited to be here today. It's so much fun to do something like this, kind of just reach a whole different audience. But I guess, my beginning in art was always there. I just never pursued it full time until a couple of years ago. When I was a kid, I always did like dioramas, and I did like collages on poster board from magazines, and I was always artistic in some way, but I always thought it was a hobby. I thought that it was just something fun to do. And then, as I grew up and went to college, and my parents were like, oh, you need to get a sensible job and go to school for something that you're going to make money at. So I went for business, and then it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I just really want to do this. And I started taking a class. It's an abstract acrylics class for adults, and it's nearby. And it's all different styles of people painting there, but we all kind of explore our own style and give feedback. And it's just been a great way to kind of get things started for me.
Nice. How did you find that originally?
I actually just Googled it. I said art class for adults, and I did it in my area, and that's what came up. And I was so bad my first couple of classes.
Hardly.
Oh God, I had no idea what I was doing. Because abstract is a very particular technique and style, but there can be unique, your own style within that, and that's something that I needed to find. So I kind of got frustrated in the beginning because I was with people who had been painting for, 10 years, 15 years, successful artists that were selling their paintings regularly for thousands of dollars. And I'm like, oh, God, what am I doing here? But I just kept at it because, it was that feeling that I was doing it for me. I wasn't doing it for anything else other than I just wanted to express myself in this way. So I kept pursuing it, and I guess last year is when my kind of girl series came about, which is some of the ones you can see in the back. And that was really inspired by my nieces. They're 10 and 14, and I felt like there's so much inspirational art for adults out there that I really wanted to make something for kids that were simple and kind of comforting. So I just started doing these girls and doing very basic slogans, and it kind of just took off from there.
Nice. Can you tell us about what changed for you during that process, during that transition of, you know, showing up at a class for the first time since you were a kid with, you know, these other slightly intimidating, I suppose, you know, professionals, but then you had a transition happen for you in that process, and like, what was that like, or what were some of the things that you learned during that?
Well, during that process, I actually started my blog. So it's called the Vibrant Living Project. And I figured that as I was going through this, I surely can't be the first one to be going through this, and I won't be the last. And I thought it might be interesting to share my experience, to let other people know that, you know, as you go through transitions, it's okay to be awful at what you're doing, or to make mistakes, or to do it over 15 times, or whatever it is. It's the process is the important part. So I started that blog, and I just started writing about stuff I was learning through my painting process.
Yeah. What are some of the things that, you know, you feel like maybe you had to do 15 times over? I think, you know, living in that process and accepting the process as a thing itself and not just something to get through is enlightening. You know, that's something that we all need to internalize and really, really understand, because it is the only way that we're going to get things done, but also get things done our way. And so I'm wondering if you can share with us some of those challenges that you came across during this whole journey.
Well, I would say from the very beginning it was a challenge, because I've never been formally trained in art, so I didn't even know about supplies or paints or the grade of paints, or, you know, and then we get into like the technical aspect of, you know, creating a blog, posting to a blog. How do you make a blog? How do you do all this stuff? Google became my best friend. But you know, so it's still an ongoing process. I mean, it's an interesting process to go through as an adult, to like really change things up and try something new, because that's not something we normally do as adults. You know, we expect we do that as a kid, and then we've learned what we need to know, and then we just keep going. But it's really it's interesting, and it's fun and challenging and terrifying at the same time, but you learn so much about yourself when you challenge yourself in that way, and that's what I like.
Yeah. How did you start on the blog? Let's focus on that for a second.
Okay.
You know, you started a blog from, I mean, did you Google how do I start a blog and then go from there?
Literally, I did. You know, I had heard of like Blogger, and I've heard of WordPress, and my sister actually has a blog, and she was writing a few things, but I wanted something I had a little more control over to post, because Blogger has a very specific format. So I just started like reading tons and tons of blogs on blogs. And
how meta.
I know, right? Hey. There's so much out there. There's so many people so willing to help you if you just are willing to sit there and listen and read. And I saw a few videos on YouTube, and I literally would follow step by step. Like, I'd have the video playing on my phone while I'm doing it on the computer. And a lot of stuff I've done that way. You know, like, not afraid to say, like, I have no idea what I'm doing with this, but I'm going to work through it.
And I mean, the results have been pretty amazing. You have a very successful blog. You have, you know, you have an Etsy store where you're selling your artwork, which we'll definitely share the link. So if anybody is interested, they can pop over there and check it out. Do you feel like there was sort of a breakthrough on this, where you got to a point where you're like, oh yeah, this is great, we're moving, or do you think that it was all of this work is sort of led up, it's sort of, you know, accumulated into the success that you have today?
I feel like I am so at the beginning of everything. You know, like, it's so easy when you're doing something like art, or you're writing, or when you're producing a product, a personal product, it's so easy to compare yourself to other people. And when you're not producing a product, when you're doing anything new, you're always comparing yourself to other people. You know, how far ahead they are, you know, what they do, how they do it. And it's a dangerous trap when you do that, because then if you start following the exact road of what other people have done, you're squelching what you could do and what you could really produce. I mean, and that's, you know, everyone always says it's all been done before, but it hasn't been done by you. So I always try to keep that in mind when I'm thinking like, oh God, I didn't post on the blog this week, or I didn't, you know, I haven't sold something in so many days, or whatever it is. I keep reminding myself that this is part of the process. Like, I am at the very, very tip of the iceberg. I plan on doing this for a long time. So I don't have to reach the finish line now, but I have to remind myself. So I don't think I've had, I mean, sure, I've had mini breakthroughs, and you have to celebrate along the way as you do things, or else you get totally frustrated. But, you know, I feel like there's always improvement. You're always, you know, I have this running list of things to do for my art, things to do for the blog. You never get to the end of the list, you know? But
Absolutely.
you have to have that. You have to keep setting goals and moving forward, and then you learn along the way.
This reminds me of something that you had mentioned before when we were talking earlier. You have a note card on your desk, right? That has a message that's just for you.
Is it? Yeah.
Nice.
Stay open. I remember I was painting one day. I think it was in the earlier, a couple years ago, and I was just feeling so frustrated. I felt like I was never going to get it. I don't know what it is, but I felt like I wasn't going to get it. And I just kind of felt like, you know what, I just have to stay open. I have to stay open to the inspiration from me. I have to stop thinking about what this other artist is doing or how successful other people are, and keep in mind that this is my journey. You know, this is what I'm learning and what I'm trying to become, and, you know, my unique process. And I think that that's a big part of becoming yourself, is figuring out who you are and where your motivation comes from. You know, what you're interested in, and what you can, how you're going to serve the world, how you're going to put your unique voice out there. Because it's so important for us all to kind of figure that out. You know, don't you feel more, I don't know, peaceful, at ease, or excited when you really feel like, yeah, this is me. Like, this, I got this. Like, I understand this part of me. You know.
And I know you share tips on these sort of themes on your blog, vibrantlivingproject.com. But I'm wondering if you can, besides the stay open, and I mean, these are all very sort of broad themes that we can keep in mind, but I'm wondering if you have any more specific or more tactical, I suppose, advice for people who are maybe struggling with this kind of process for themselves.
Well, I would say, you know, get as specific as you can. You know, figure out your motivation. You know, think of your theme song every day. When you wake up, you think of your theme song that's going to motivate you to get to a better place, or to get you closer to your goal of what you're working towards. You know, that's one thing that I try to think about. Find your vehicle. You know, what is your vehicle towards expressing yourself? Is it writing? Is it painting, sculpting, singing, dancing, whatever it is? Find your joy vehicle and do that every day, even if it's for 30 seconds or 5 minutes or 2 hours, whatever it is. You know, that joy part of feeling good and doing something that's bringing you closer to yourself is going to expand your life in ways you can't imagine, because it's just, you know, it brings so much more happiness, and that always takes you to great places.
I was reading a list of things that everyone should keep in mind for 2015, and that was actually right. It was on there. It was do something that you love to do for even a minute every day. So I think that's excellent advice, and something I definitely need to focus on more.
And you know, it goes along, like I'm really into, I don't know if you've ever heard of Danielle Laporte. She wrote this book called what is it, The Fire Starter Sessions, and it's all about, have you seen that? It's all about like following your feelings. You know, it's that law of attraction or Abraham or however you relate to it. It's all about manifesting more of what makes you feel good, and that kind of goes along with that theme.
So how did you know that painting was that for you? I mean, you just kind of decided to go back to, or go to this class that was acrylic painting, but it seems like kind of a shot in the dark. Like if you've been stuck in, a a supporting yourself sort of role for a long time, and you haven't had the chance to explore these things, how did you know that painting was going to be that thing for you?
I don't think I did know that, to be honest. It was just something I was trying. I had seen, probably after college, I read a book by Sabrina Ward Harrison, and she is like a painter, photographer, collage artist, and she had published a book that was her journal, out for the whole world to see, but it was like basically an art journal. And it was it was very groundbreaking. Like it was the first of her kind to do that. And I saw that, and my heart, like, I kind of had that feeling of like, oh my God, that's so awesome. And then that feeling of like, she's doing what I want to do, like that feeling of like jealousy, excitement, and I loved it. So I always kind of held that with me. I was like, wow, like I can do stuff like that. I just have to do it, So I started painting like just by myself. I bought a few supplies and I would just paint randomly. And then I guess that desire just grew over time, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try this. Like I've always loved collage, but I knew that whatever I did, I was gonna incorporate collage into it. And I found that I wanted to take a class in painting, and it just so happened that the class around me was abstract. So it was kind of just, random and by chance. But
serendipitous.
Yeah, serendipitous, exactly. So it's fun, though. I mean, trying something new is scary, but I feel like the more I do that, the more I figure out what works for me, what makes me happy, and what doesn't work for me too, So.
That takes a lot of courage, I mean, it sounds like, it's a great litmus test of what you should be doing. It's like doing these scary things, and that feeling that you get through that process is going to tell you a lot. But doing scary things, just doing things that you don't necessarily know if you're going to be good at, or doing things that are totally new, that takes a lot. That takes a lot of courage, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I never really looked at it as like a matter of being courageous. I just kind of thought of it as like, it's not like pass or fail. I was just going to try it and see, because I wasn't being graded. I wasn't being evaluated in any way. I wanted a new form of expression. I didn't want to wake up, go to work, go to the gym, come home, eat, and go to sleep. I didn't want that to, Yeah, do it all again. Groundhog Day. Here we go. Right. I wanted to do something that I knew inside of me. I knew something was there to express something, and it just so happened to come out in painting. And in the beginning, as you can see in some of my paintings, the backgrounds are abstract. So I started by doing all abstract backgrounds. It was only, like a year and a half ago that I started doing the girls over the abstract backgrounds. So it's a process. As with anything, you start somewhere, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to end there. And it was that was a good learning experience for me. Because even in class, my teacher's like, you're painting backgrounds. You're painting a lot of backgrounds." And he kept saying that to me, and I'm like, "I know, but this is what I like. This is what I want to paint, you know." And then it kind of came to me that maybe I should put something on top of them, you know, make them a background. So it's a process, you know, like you just have to have fun while you're doing it. As long as you're enjoying yourself and making mistakes and trying again and keep moving forward, you really can't go wrong. It's just, I think as adults, we're taught that we have to get it right on the first try, you know, and if you don't know how to do it, then, you know, what are you doing? That's crazy. But that's not true. You know, you can keep learning, keep trying new things, and it just expands who you are.
Yeah. Now, you had mentioned before the imposter syndrome, which is an interesting, I think, a good segue from this into talking about that. Can you just tell us a little bit about what it is, just to introduce people who may not be familiar?
Sure. Well, it's that feeling. The imposter syndrome is very popular among artists. It's the feeling of being found out, or, you know, among any performance type area. You know, it's like, oh, they're going to find out that, you know, I'm not really an artist. I had a business degree, or they're going to find out that, you know, like I'm a fraud, or that I'm not as good as I appear to be, or, you know, I'm imperfect, or I can't do this. And it's just part of the human condition. You know, we all feel that way. We all feel like, you know, who am I to do this? Who am I to think I'm an artist and I can open an Etsy shop and I can be on Mad Mimi and, you know, do all this stuff. But, you know, if not me, it's going to be someone else. You know, may as well be me. But
and like you said before, you know, everything's been done before, but it hasn't been done by you.
Yes, and I
that's
think
so profound.
It's such an important thing to remember, because there's so many people that get frustrated, you know, when they're creating something and they say, oh, you know, I love this, but she already did it, or, you know, look at her, that's what I want to do, and I can't do it better than that. You can do it differently, you know, and what you have to say is just as important, and we need to see that. And I think that that's, you know, when I come up against those walls and I say, oh, God, you know, like, I don't know if this is silly or if this looks good or if I like this, I just keep in mind, like, what do I want to see? How do I want to feel when I look at this painting? And that if it resonates with me, then I'm good with it, and I know it'll resonate with other people. But it's hard, you know, you got to fight that off, that whole, like, you know, feeling like a fraud and feeling like, who the hell am I to do this at 41 years old, you know? But,
the inner critic, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, how about, you had mentioned earlier on that these were inspired by your nieces. Do you ever involve them in that process then of, you know, I mean, what you're talking about is something that is deeply personal, you know, making sure that it resonates with yourself. And of course, when you're doing your own projects, that's the most important thing. But I was just wondering if since this work was sort of inspired by them, do you ever involve them in the process of creating?
You know, it's funny, over Christmas I got one of them a whole art set because she was very curious about my painting, and, you know, I had a gallery show in November where the whole display was on, all my girls were up for display, and she was just very intrigued. So I was like, this is great. I gave her, you know, paints and stuff, and we're going to have an artist date soon to, you know, so I could show her how to use all the supplies and everything. Yeah, I mean, they love it. They love being a part of it, and I always kind of use them as a little bit of a focus group, shall we say. And, you know, I say, do you like this, or what don't you like about this? And they tell me, and it kind of gives me an idea of what, because they're really my target market. Like, those are the people that I'm appealing to, you know? So I always try to kind of involve them in the process and see what they like and what they don't like.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that most of your art is purchased for, or I guess by, maybe, by kids? I mean, it's for kids. I know that you intend it to be for kids, but do you have adults that buy it as well? I mean, what do you find as your final?
Definitely. You know, when I first started doing it, I was trying to figure out you know, they always say you can't appeal to everyone. You have to figure out who you're appealing to, who your market is. And I originally intended it to be for my nieces, you know, inspirational art for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also felt that I could relate to this. You know, I would love to have a person telling me, sweet little face saying, take it slow every day. You know, just a good reminder. So my tagline is inspirational art for kids and the kid in you. So it's kind of like appeals to whoever needs just like a gentle little nudge or a hug or a, you know, a kind word during the day. But I have had a lot of adults buy them as well for themselves, which is nice. You know, it's nice that it appeals to them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Especially if it's not something that you necessarily intended, and then to find that there's this additional group, you know, that you can appeal to. So it's nice.
Yeah. And you know, when one of my friends went to see the gallery exhibit, she said, I just love looking at them. They're so happy making. And I was so excited that she said that, because that's exactly how I feel when I look at them. Like, they kind of give me that, like, woo, you know, like I'm all excited about them. So I'm happy that it resonates with other people, because that's all I could ever want. You know, that is the expression. My expression is coming through loud and clear, which is great.
Absolutely. Now, and that's an interesting, I guess, parallel to, you know, you're doing what you want to do, and it resonates with yourself, and it's something that's important to you, and these are all important and crucial for going on this journey, you know, to living vibrantly, as you put it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you're creating something for other people as well. So you're looking to have that equal resonation, you know, that it's reflected back, you know, right, when someone else looks at it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of sharing. I just want to share with people what I learn along the way, so that they don't have to struggle with it too. You know, there's no sense to reinvent the wheel. I just feel like if we could all help each other a little, life would be a lot easier, you know?
And I like that, helping people with the idea that it is a little bit of a struggle. You know, helping people with also the idea that imposter syndrome is not just you, you know, or with the idea that you're going to have to do scary things, you know, because as we were talking about before, you can follow step by step by step of somebody, and it's not going to end up exactly the same as what they did.
Exactly. And you have to follow your own path. You know, just because someone else is doing it so well, it doesn't mean that you're going to come up with the same results, because they did it their way, and you need to do it your way. And that may involve several different steps along the way.
Right. 1A, 2A, B.
3, yeah.
Right. So we have a great question from Rebecca. Thank you for submitting. She's interested in knowing more about how you network to expand your circle of contacts.
That is a great question. I do a lot of social media. I focus a lot on Facebook, Instagram, and Google+, because I find that they're very visual. And one thing that I'm really working on is Pinterest, because I know that that's very visual as well.
Absolutely.
But I do a lot of experiments. I mean, like, I was on Facebook for a while. I heard a webinar, and they said you should be posting 2 to 3 times a day as a business. And I was like, what? But I did it for like 2 weeks, and I found I got a lot more visibility and a lot more sharing, but that is exhausting. I can't possibly keep up with that. So at least I know that works, but you know, I'm trying to navigate what works in that respect. Of course, I use Mad Mimi. I do my newsletter. I do it at least every other week. A lot of times I do it once a week. But I find that a lot of times great things come from just reaching out to people. You know, not necessarily selling all the time, but being truly interested in what they're doing. I belong to a lot of artist groups, and we talk about each other's work and, you know, what we're doing and new techniques and how we're learning, and it's really great to share, and then it kind of blooms from there. So, you know, I try to engage, you know, and you know, show people what I'm doing, but also learn what they're doing as well.
So for your different platforms that you use, do you have different strategies as in terms of posting for Facebook versus posting for Google Plus versus for Instagram? Are they different at all?
They can be, yeah. I mean, I find that Instagram is purely visual, obviously. That's what people really go there for. So I try to post a lot of work in progress, painting, finished products. I find on Facebook they're looking a little bit more for like your personal life. So I try to show what I'm doing along with my business, maybe behind the scenes, trips I'm taking, even, some silly things that always get to laugh. Google Plus I'm still figuring out, but I feel like it's more inspirational. Like people are looking to kind of be boosted up. So a lot of like quotes and helpful hints, and I put my blog posts up there, and Pinterest again, it's all a lot of visual too. So there's a lot of linking from my Etsy shop and to different things that I'm working on the blog and stuff like that. But yeah, there's definitely different techniques, but it's it can get a little crazy managing it sometimes, if you have a lot going on. So, the key is to be organized, and that's one thing that I'm working on this year. That's one of my goals. Because
I'm sorry, what was that?
I need to get more organized. So I need to do
Who doesn't?
I know. But I can't, for some reason, the editorial calendar eludes me. I have to work on that better, rather than like panicking the morning of and throwing together something of what I'm working on. I need to plan it out a little better. So that's something that I'm working on.
So we have one quick Facebook question from Rebecca, which is, do you find it helpful to boost your posts using Facebook's paid option? Have you ever used that at all?
I have not, actually. That's something I wanted to explore to see if I got more likes, more visibility. I've heard that a lot of times people do get more visibility, but it's not necessarily the people that are interested in your product. So I think that there's a difference between boosting for the sake of it and boosting for a purpose. So I have to kind of work on what my goal is for that.
Absolutely. I mean, you always want your audience to be relevant. I mean, you don't want signups that are just gonna then unsubscribe right away.
Exactly. You want a little bit more of a focused reason that you're doing that.
Absolutely. So back to the organization question, though. Lisa Volrath has asked, how much time do you spend making art versus promoting your art?
That is an excellent question, and it's something that I do kind of struggle with, because I would much rather be making art 90% of the time and promoting it 10% of the time, but I find a lot of times it's opposite. Probably like 80% of the time I'm promoting it and 20% I'm working on it. Because I find that painting and doing all that stuff, it's relaxing to me. It's fun. It's easy. It comes easy. I put on some music and I am just having a great time. But the organizational part of it takes so much time to get together and figure out, and where are you going to post, and when are you going to post, and how often are you going to post. And it takes a lot to be organized that way. So I would say it's much more promoting than it is painting, but I think that you have to find a balance. And one thing I've also figured out is that you have to set up specific times of when you're going to create. I know everyone's like, oh, wait till the inspiration appears, and but then you don't do anything. You don't get anything done. So I paint Fridays, Friday mornings specifically. I'll have a block of like 3 or 4 hours. I just hammer a lot of things out during that time, and then my painting class on Monday nights. So I know definitely I'm at least painting twice a week. And if I get to a point during the weekend on Sundays, I love painting then as well. So, you know, if I can get to painting 3 days a week, that's fantastic. And then the rest of the time, I'm promoting.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell us, you were telling me before about an experiment that you had tried on yourself that's sort of relevant to this, about time management, where you tracked every hour, I think it was.
Oh, yes. There is a planner out there. It's called the Passion Planner. And I saw it on, I think I saw it on a Facebook post. And it's kind of like an artistic planner where it leaves room for kind of doodling and dreaming and writing down goals and thinking about what you really want to think about during the day rather than, you know, how you have to go food shopping, that kind of stuff. So it's blocked out by, I think, by half an hour sections. And she offers on the website, you can print out a PDF of a week to try it out rather than buying the whole planner just to see if it works for you. So I printed it out, and I was like, you know what, on Friday and the weekend, I'm going to time block what I need to get done. Well, I did it on Friday, and I got more done in that one day than I did like the whole week. And I think it's just because I get so much more done when I'm structured. If I leave it up to me, say, oh, you know, I'll take, you know, in this 3-hour time block, I'll do these 10 things. No, never gets done, you know? Like, I need very specific, but once I have that schedule, I can hammer it out. So that was an interesting, eye-opening experience for me to realize, like, I really need to schedule more of my stuff rather than saying, oh, you know, Saturday I'm going to do these 10 things. That just doesn't work for me.
And LaDonna Harris has also she uses the Passion Planner and she loves it.
Oh.
So guys, got to try it out if you need some structure, which I know I do. Oof.
And, you know, there's that whole fight between, like, electronic and paper. Like, do you do electronic, the Google Calendar, or do you go back to the paper? That's kind of where I am right now. Like, I do use some of those Passion Planner pages every once in a while when I have a lot to get done and I need to just structure my days. But then I still go back to my calendar on my phone. So I'm kind of in the middle right now. I'm trying to figure out what works. But I constantly hear about how multi-passionate people, how they're always doing different things, they need structure, and that's kind of where I fall.
Right, and it takes a little bit of discipline, you know, to not only abide by a structure, but also to set it. Then, you know, that first step.
Yeah, and to say, like, this is the time that I'm doing my art. This is the time that I'm devoting to, you know, scheduling Facebook posts. Like, you have to. It's so easy to get distracted with all the social media and, you know, everything is at our fingertips that you really have to say, like, this is what I'm doing right now, you know, and I'm not going to stop for, you know, 30 minutes or whatever it is.
Right, right. And Lisa uses an Excel spreadsheet to plan out her day. So it's also I wouldn't want to say low tech because it's kind of more high tech than a piece of paper, but
that's pretty cool.
It's accessible.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how that works, you know? Another thing I could add.
Absolutely. Now, we tend to think that a job has to be, you know, full-time in order to pay the bills, or that if you want to, you know, if you want to follow a passion, you have to just throw yourself 110% into it. But that's not at all the case for what you do and how you structure your time. I mean, you're not an artist full-time, correct?
No, I'm not. And, you know, I've always had, like, a side gig. That's what I call it. You know, I've always either been in school or I've been training for something or learning something new. And I think that's just part of my personality. Like, I need a project to work on constantly so that it's kind of my release, my relaxation time. I have no problem going to the spa and getting a massage and relaxing, but I'm talking about, like, on a day-to-day basis. I love having projects to work towards. So that's kind of where the blog came around and, you know, the painting, and it just kind of bloomed into a business, which ultimately that's all we could wish for, right? I mean, we're doing something that we love, and then you start actually making money at it. That's what everyone always says: do what you love, and you never work a day in your life. It takes a little while to get there, but I do appreciate the sense of it, you know. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's a myth, and it's a very hidden myth among artists, is that you can immediately make that jump to being a full-time artist and support yourself.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with doing it part-time for, you know, a certain amount of time till you can. But I think that people try to hide that sometimes because they feel like they're not legitimate, or they're not, you know, full-time is the real deal, you know? Like, you can do it part-time, make a great living, and, you know, have fun with it, and still do other things. Keep, you know, other interests alive as well.
As long as you structure your time.
Yeah. As long as you have a planner and you can organize everything out. Maybe that's why I'm so, you know, all over the place these days, because I'm doing a lot and I need to get a little more organized. That's fun.
2015, it's the year for organizing and finding ourselves. It's going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, if anybody has any other questions, please, of course, submit them. Stephanie, do you have any other tips or like last words of advice or something that you want to share with folks who, you know, may be struggling with the same kind of journey that you've gone through?
Yeah, I would say most of all, don't dance around who you are. You know, if you are a true singer underneath it all, pursue that in some way. You know, if you want to learn ballet, find a class and go to it. I think that yearning and that calling will never go away. So don't fight it. Give into it somehow. You know, what do they say? Feed the muse. You know, when the muse shows up, you have to listen. And that's what will give you inspiration to keep going. So yeah, just be true to who you are. And it's okay if people have done it before, they haven't done it like you.
I love that. I'm gonna create a little mantra poster of that because it's just so inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
Thank you.
And also so Stephanie is a acrylic and mixed media artist. She has all of her work available on her Etsy shop, which is etsy.com/shop/StephMartel. So please go there, check it out. Her blog is thevibrantlivingproject.com, where she shares tips for living vibrantly. So something we all can use more of in our day-to-day lives. Thank you guys for watching. This video will be available anytime on YouTube, so you can come back and check it out. We'll make sure to include all the links that we mentioned. I'll try and find a link to the Passion Planner so everybody can check that out, and everything else that came up in the description, so you'll be able to access that. And we'll be back next week, next Wednesday at 4 p.m. So thanks, and thank you again, Stephanie. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Mira. It was so much fun.
Bye, everyone.